Hey, John, thanks for coming on the show today.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Well, I'm excited to have you. I've been following you on TikTok for a while, and I've noticed that your brand, Redeye Supply, is doing really well.
It's doing pretty good. It's definitely doing pretty good.
Do you feel like it's starting to take a root with what you started because it's affordable FR clothing, so that has to be doing pretty well in the oil field culture at least.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like it's starting to gain more traction now. We did start off a little bit slow and then gained a lot of traction on our first couple orders, and it kind of, I guess, plateaued there. But now I think since I've ramped up the marketing on TikTok, making more videos, kind of explaining more about who I am as a person, what our company stands for, our vision, um, it's definitely it's definitely ramped up since then.
Well, and that's what I've noticed too, because your videos really stand out because you're in the field, you work in the field, and your tagline is for the hands by the hands, right?
That's correct. Yeah. So I do work in the field. I work flowback. I know that people are probably gonna, yeah, I work flowback. But yeah, all my businesses ran out of the field, which is crazy. My beautiful wife, amazing, runs the back end of the business, and I take the face and the charge of the marketing. And yeah, everything that we do is for the hands by the hands. Affordable FRs, um, t-shirts that are inspired by the field, something a little bit different, not your normal t-shirts. Of course, hats. Everyone loves hats, but yeah, I kind of take the forefront from work. I make sure I do all my work before I make any videos or anything like that. Do it safely, but yeah, that's been our main vision and goal for the company is just to provide a quality of FR that bigger companies provide, but for a more affordable price point.
Well, and that's really refreshing and it's great to hear because, when FRs became mandatory, I mean, one thing that we noticed as field workers, and that was when I was in the field, was how expensive they were. And when you're trying to get to a job and, you need all the money that you're making, I mean, just to afford housing and living on the road, then having to make that investment into FRs, it's a lot.
Yeah, it definitely is a lot, and that was one of the main missions there. One of the main reasons we started it was I was talking to a lot of guys in the industry, a lot of newer guys, guys that, may have just graduated high school or may have just made a transition in their career and want to do something a little bit more labor intensive, a little bit more involved. And that was the one thing that they would always bring up. They're like, "Man, I love the job. It's long hours, it's tough, but these clothes, man, these clothes, they're just so expensive." And I mean, you can go to any store, and if you're trying to buy, 7 sets of pants, 7 shirts, I don't know anyone that can go to the store and buy 7 sets of pants and 7 sets
Right.
of shirts at one time right then and there. But yeah, for new guys getting in, it's expensive. For guys who, may have been in and maybe not have the most highest paying job, it's hard. And at the end of the day, it leans back into the companies. Yes, they provide FRs, and that's great that they do. I know OSHA requires it, and I love that companies do that, but it's taking effect on companies as well. Like
Mhm.
companies don't just they do get discounts on bulk orders, but I mean, think about what the price of the FR is for a person going into a store, and then you could probably take a little bit off, and that's what the companies are getting it for after embroidery fees and all that stuff
Mhm.
as well.
Yeah, and so I mean it's a lot, it's a commitment from the industry. It's required, it's mandatory, so you kind of you saw a problem and found a solution for it. You yourself as a field worker, you've had to buy FR clothes, you know how expensive they are, and so just trying to develop something that's affordable for, for the workers, and really, putting that out there and doing something where you're in the field, but you're creating a business at the same time for the field, but like you said, you and your wife are doing it together.
Yeah, so that was the main that was what I thought about when I was first thinking of Red Eye Supply is, okay, I knew I wanted to start a business. I've always wanted to start a business. I've always been very entrepreneurial ever since I was a little kid. I mean, I was a little kid that was selling lemonade out in front of my house
That
for,
was you.
yeah, 50 cents a cup. And if you wanted to, I'm charging you. I don't care if you're my family or not. um, but no, I knew I wanted to start something, but I didn't want to start something for my own gain. I feel like that is a way of business that a lot of people try to go into, like, oh, I'm gonna just sell this and make a bunch of money and be rich and successful and everyone's gonna buy my stuff. And I feel like that's such a bad way of looking at business. How I wanted to start my business was I wanted to help, I wanted to provide something that people needed, and I didn't want to extort anyone for it. I wanted to make sure that it was a fair pricing point for what we were providing. And I feel like that's the what differentiates a successful business and a notable business is it's not about the number. It's not about the sales. Yes, of course you need money to run a business. Yes, of course it needs to be profitable. But at the end of the day, the businesses that are doing great things, they all have one thing in common, and they're helping people. They're solving problems, and they genuinely care about their consumer. They genuinely care about the people that they're providing things to.
Yeah.
And that was the sole purpose of it all.
Yeah, no, providing that value,
Absolutely.
absolutely. And so that separates you and sets you apart because there's a lot of people out there that, are selling FR clothes or, oil field merchandise, but to also keep in mind that it's expensive to work in the field. And so to do something that's affordable, you really are putting the workers first and the guys in the field, the women in the field that are out there and they're trying to save as much money as they can. And a lot of people that work in the field, they live on the road, and so you have your bills at home and then your bills on the road, and so that those financial obligations can really add up quickly.
Absolutely. And I feel like that is one thing that has influenced the way that we're taking red eye. We have a red eye promise that all of our pricing on our FRs, our cat ones will always stay at that $30 price point. Our cat twos will always be at the $35 price point. The new button down we have coming out will always be at 45. And that's, like I said, what I call the red eye promise. We don't want to scale up, or we don't want to charge more for our clothing, because at the end of the day, what you said. I work in the field myself. I'm going on 6 years now, and I understand the commitment of time it is away from your family, the amount of money it costs, because a lot of people don't take in consideration how much money that you have to pay if you're not cooking in a hotel. If you're lucky enough to have a hotel or camper that has a place to cook, you're eating out, you're paying for fuel if you're a contractor. And yes, while oil field workers do make a good salary, they make good money. You know just as well as I do, the oil field goes up and it goes down.
Mhm.
And at the end of the day, it's not about how much money you've made, it's about how much money you've saved,
Mhm.
how much money you've retained from it all. And if we can be the company that people choose to go with, and it saves them an extra, 500, 400 bucks, and they're able to provide a birthday gift or
Mhm.
an extra day on vacation, or be able to buy their wife that extra something special for her birthday, like that's what I find the most fulfillment in, is being able to do exactly what you said, be able to provide an affordable option so that people can have money to allocate to, real life, what
Mhm.
their life is.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Because you're committed to working in the field, but you don't want to be so overcommitted that half your paycheck is going just to being able to show up to work every day. And like you said, I mean, fuel for a contractor, housing, all of those things are going to add up. And so to have affordable FR clothing where you're not, trying to get by with just a couple pairs of pants and a few shirts because you can't afford more, you can actually invest and enjoy it and have fun with it. Because I mean, I know when FRs became mandatory, there weren't a lot of options either as far as style, as far as pricing. It's like you just had to get whatever was there. And now it seems like it's a whole different ball game from when it started.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy to see how many businesses like Red Eye Supply, so smaller businesses that are coming out with FRs. And um, like I mentioned to you before, we don't really see competition as competition. Like our competition is the bigger corporations that really charge an arm and a leg for FRs. Like we love the other smaller businesses, and we've seen that our price points has caused some of those companies to lower their prices, which inevitably is a win for us, because if people in the field can get more affordable FRs from other businesses because they see our pricing and they're trying to compete with us, I mean, that's a win in itself. We don't have to be the best company. We don't have to be make the most sales out of all the companies. But if we come in and we shake the market and we disrupt it and we cause some change for the better, I mean, we won.
Yeah.
That's our win.
Yeah, because I mean, like you said, I mean, there's plenty to go around, and I mean, there's all kinds of people that are buying FR clothing in the oil field, and so really supporting other small businesses and encouraging them to be just as successful, but also reasonable on the pricing front.
Absolutely, because it's easy. When you have a product like FR that you have bigger corporations that sell them at a certain price point, it's super easy to go, make your own, source your own, find your own, and just maybe go $10 less than them, or $5 less than them, or the same price as them. Like it's super easy to do that, and people will buy them because you need them. You have to
Yeah.
wear them. And I feel I feel like Red Eye has definitely done that. We've just kind of disrupted the market, and I think that's why we've grown so much, is that we're different. They're
Yeah.
just a different kind of company. We're not all about the monetary things. We're about people being able to retain what's most important to them, which is taking care of their family with the money they make in the field.
Well, and I understand that, that's very important to you. That's a value that you hold dear because you're a first generation oil field worker and you decided to come out to the oil field and do something different. So, I mean, you've been in those shoes.
Yeah, I have. I'm first generation oil field. No one else in my family works in the oil field or around it. I started off. What a lot of people don't know is in 2016 I actually started off in sales, not in the oil field, outside of it. But I was a manager. I trained door to door salespeople and trained, developed sales curriculums and scripts and whatnot. And then I did that for 3 years, helped build a company up pretty big. And I think at some point during that time, I mean, I was young. I got put into a really big upper management position super young, and it really took a toll on me. It was a lot of work, and I'm from a small town, so all my friends were in the oil field, and they were telling me like, "Hey man, you can make good money here. It's fun. You get to work with your hands. You get to be around, other men and women working hard." And that just I don't know. I had the window, I had the opportunity to go, and next thing you know, I was wearing some slacks one day, and then the next day I was wearing a Tyvek suit on a neighbor's rig, pressure washing out mud tanks
With steel toes and a
with
hard hat.
steel toes and a hard hat and some clears, and not those cool looking clears. We had those big old block ones
Oh, yeah.
because I before I had contacts, I had glasses. We had the big old block ones,
Mhm.
so it just looked like a brick on your face of clears and getting dirty and out there and getting involved. And man, as hard as the work was, I fell in love with it. I
Yeah.
fell in love with not only that, but the camaraderie, because there's a certain camaraderie with when you're in the field and you're spending more time with the guys at work than you are at home. They
Mhm.
become your second family.
No, they
You
really do.
you have brothers and sisters, and just those are your people, you know?
Mhm. Well, and then when you have to be on location at, 6:30 in the morning, safety meetings at 7, it's like you're in it together. And when you work so many hours on location and you're staying away from home, whether you're in a man camp, a RV or a motel, whatever it may be, you develop that camaraderie from like the understanding of the lifestyle and you depend on each other. And like you said, it is like your second family. And I mean, I can remember different crews that I worked with in the field, and I always wanted to make sure, the guys were taken care of when I was working and like doing documentation on location and, doing payroll and things like that. Or, when I was an operator helper, it was like I learned from these guys that are still doing the work, that
Mhm.
are still there traveling, whether they're still here in the Permian or they're in different oil field hubs across the country. And I can remember conversations that we had and, different like days when we would cook or when I learned how to do different things working with them or what they showed me, it's life changing in a good way because you learn different life skills working in the oil field. It's unlike anything else you've ever done.
Absolutely. And not only that, not just learning life skills, but what a lot of people don't understand is you meet a lot of personalities. You meet a lot
Yes.
of people who have experienced a lot of things in life and who you can take little bits and parts from and, formulate who you are as a person. Like when I jumped in, I was still young. And, at that point, I thought I was going to be the successful upper management sales manager. And then I get in the field and I meet, a 40-year-old guy who is a veteran that went through this and taught me about resilience. And then I meet, someone else in the field that taught me about his hard time and why saving money is good. And
Mhm.
you start to, as you develop camaraderie, you start to meet new people and experience new personalities, new backgrounds, new ways of thinking. And that right there is what I credit the vision for Redeye 2 is just I've worked at a few different places and I've met people along the way that I've pulled bits and pieces from that have just really propelled me in a way of caring, like just caring for people. And that's the main thing in the field. Sure, we're a rough bunch. Sure, we like to not bump heads. And, sometimes you get the occasional argument and whatnot. But at the end of the day, everyone cares about each other from that camaraderie.
Right.
And I think those guys in my past from going through it have really instilled that in me is that these are your brothers, these are your sisters, these are the people that are willing to go through the long hours, the pain
Mhm.
with you. They're out there right next to you. And that's amazing.
It really is, and, and I think also the camaraderie comes from, the oil and gas industry is demonized a lot for, like, the destruction that it has on the environment.
Absolutely.
But when you're inside the industry and you're the one doing the work, and you can see, how we're doing it differently than, maybe how it's represented outside of the industry, like, I think there's a certain level of pride and, dedication that you feel within the culture, because even for me, like, I don't work in the field anymore, but from the years that I've worked in the oil field, I knew I wanted to do something to give a positive representation of what we're doing, and an honest representation, because the oil field doesn't always have a voice, and there's just a stigma of what we're doing out here, and the outside world doesn't understand it, and they'll never understand because it's so industrial and so far out, especially where we are in the Permian, that they don't see it. They don't see that hard work. They don't see the camaraderie. They don't see the dedication, and just the different things that we've done to move forward, to be more environmentally conscious, and to be safer, and to do better work. And so I think that there's a commitment there for oil field workers to be proud of what they do.
I think so as well, and I feel like anyone who's demonizing the oil field has obviously never sat down or had a meeting or safety standoff with safety or environmental because I mean they take it pretty serious. It's a pretty serious thing, you know. A spill is a spill, and that's a big deal.
Mhm.
And I feel like you said, they see it from the outside and they see a rough bunch of people that are killing the world, and I don't believe that's what it is. I think that once you're in the industry and you kind of see how processes work and you see the commitment over everything, the commitment on safety and the commitment on environmental, like you said, that is huge in the oil field. That is something that I mean, any company you go to has some form of procedure, has some form of prevention for spills or
Mhm.
anything of the sort. And I mean, it's regulated heavily on things you can do and can't do, ways to store things, ways not to store things. And
Mhm.
yeah, no, definitely. I feel like from the outside looking in, it may look bad, but I would challenge the people that do demonize it to just, take a step into the world and, maybe network with someone, maybe talk with someone that's in the oil field and understand the processes that go into it and the safety that's involved and the environmental that's involved. I mean, there's
Right.
whole teams and companies that are specifically there for environmental safety.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely, and, I think that, like, that's a good way of putting it, the processes of it, because the process going from the beginning to the end of the consumables that are made by the oil field out of petroleum, that's what most people in the world are seeing and
Mhm.
using and not even realizing where their products are coming from. And so they can't even get that close to what we're actually doing here to make that happen, because there's such a large gap between the start and the end point. And so really providing that education and just shining a light on, this is how you get your iPhones, this is how you get the tires on your
Mhm.
car, this is how you get all of these things that you are taking for granted on a daily basis. And so when you see this overarching negative representation of the industry, that it's just all, flaring and smoke and, destruction, and it's really not like that. And, the oil field worker that shows up on location every day wearing their PPE and their FR clothing and doing this work and turning the wrenches, digging the trench, welding the pipe, making that happen, that is how we get these everyday luxuries that we're enjoying.
Absolutely, and that's one of the points that I hit on my most recent TikTok video was that there's so many people that are depending on the people in the field making it happen, working with their hands. I like to call them the backbone of the world. I mean, the backbone.
Right.
They're the people that trade their time and their safety sometimes to provide these things for the world. And everyone, they're looking out for so many people. They're looking out for the world. They're looking out for their families. They're looking out for the oil companies, for their company they work for, but who's really looking out for them?
Right.
And that's where Redeye comes in. That's what we wanted to do, was be able to provide that support to those men and women out there working hard, busting their butt just to provide what you said, the iPhones, the end products of all this. And again, I feel like if people on the outside of the oil field would step in and see the hard work that goes into these things, they would probably develop a different idea of what the oil field is, because at the end of the day, um, people aren't going to believe what they want to believe or what they see. And if they already have a negative outlook on the oil field, it's anything they see is just going to continue that. So
Right.
I
I think, the disconnect from, the outside world, and honestly, even within our industry, we've talked about that, from the office to the field, there can be a misunderstanding, or, there's not that sense of understanding or appreciation of what the sacrifices that field workers are making, or the amount of work they actually do, because they're not seeing it in real time, in real life. They're seeing it on paper, and, in pictures, and from afar. And
Mhm.
so the further we get, the more disconnected we are, the harder it is to understand and appreciate. And so just, again, shining a light on it, and also having a brand like Red Eye Supply really advocating for the field workers and really lifting them up and shining a light on this amazing work that is being done every day 24/7. I think it's bringing it together, but you have to have that voice, you have to have someone that's advocating for you like you are.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And when about an office and field division, there is. I've been lucky enough. I've worked at companies that the guys in the office do make it a point to be out there, swinging hammers, being out there, running forklifts, being out there, just involved with us. I've also worked for companies where guys in the office, come in at 9 and leave at 3. And, they'll be the
Yeah.
first ones to text you if something doesn't get right. And it's like, well, man, we're a little bit short. We got two guys on a 4-man job. So it'd be
Mhm.
nice to have you out here. But no, absolutely. There's a division there. And that's my personal, not red eye. This is completely separate from red eye. My personal goal is to show, maybe those the office personnel that maybe I wouldn't say look down, but don't really think that field guys can be greater than what they do. They're only good at their job. They can't be good at anything else. It's just to show them like, look, I've met guys in the field that were probably some of the smartest people I've known. Guys who've taught themselves programming, guys who've engineered their own ways, own tools, things like that. Guys who run $1 million businesses out of the field, whether it be vacuum truck company or something like that. Guys who
Mhm.
are capable of being in the office and producing results from firsthand experience. And I feel like that's something that's definitely overlooked when it comes to that division. It's like, okay, you're a field worker. I work in the office. You do your job. I'm going to do my job. That's how it's going to be. And I feel like if the office personnel, not all of them, because there are great office people, um, if they just kind of took, again, a step back and just really took inventory of the guys they have and the caliber that they have and what their specialties are outside of the jobs they have, that division would close really quick.
Yeah, I think so. And, it's something that I've noticed, and, from doing my show, and just, starting in the trades, I mean,
Mhm.
like really starting in the field, and recognizing that the trades, like you said, it's the backbone, it's the lifeblood. And so there's a lot of people talking about trades, and there's a lot of people talking about how we need trades, but there's very few that are actually bridging the gap by saying, let's teach people the trades, let's bring them in and celebrate them. And because by developing a skilled trade, we are keeping the wheel turning, because without skilled electricians, welders, operators, all of this skilled labor that we need, that we're not going to be able to do the work efficiently. We're not going to be able to do quality work. And so by not really having anyone advocating for the trades, there's not a lot of people wanting to do it. And so then you get this idea that you need to go to college, or you need to, you want to work in the office, you want to be away from the field, where, I mean, the money to be made is in the field, and the
Absolutely.
work is in the field. And if you want a job, go work in the field. You can teach yourself things, and you can learn from mentors. And I mean, you have career welders and operators and highly skilled electricians, like all these people that are actually doing the work. You, like you said, like you're a first generation oil field worker, and now you've started your own business, and all of that's been done in the field.
Yeah. And I'd say it, most of the most wealthy people I know aren't people in offices. It's people in the field, like guys who've worked in the field for a long amount of time. And I feel that if anyone's wanting to jump in the field, now's the perfect time. I mean, the demand for workers has never been higher. I know that a lot of companies are hiring. A lot of companies are looking for good quality guys that are just, you don't have to know about what you're going to do. You can come in and learn it as long as you have that mindset that, hey, I want to get better. I want to learn this. I want to
Mhm.
move up. And there is opportunity in the field. There's opportunity to make a lot of money. There's opportunity to learn a lot of life lessons. And there's opportunities just to grow as a professional in the industry as well. Because at the end of the day, that's what everyone in the field is a professional in their specialty. And That's another video series that we kinda started on Redeye was how to get in the oil field. How would I personally get in the oil field if I had to go in today with no experience, and what job would I go after, or why would I do that? And then getting feedback in the comments of people explaining theirs and just providing not only affordable workwear, but knowledge on the industry.
Yeah.
Because there for a minute during our growth period, I had a ton of people, just a ton of people messaging me like, "Hey, I wanna get in the industry. Hey, I have my CDL. Where do I start? Where do how?" And I feel like there is no one that's really providing that knowledge. I feel like the oil field for a long time, I know when I first got in, it wasn't an application in and get a call back. It was you had to know someone that knows someone, then you got in, and then you worked from the bottom up.
Mhm.
And I feel like you said if we have someone advocating for that, then we'll see not only more quality work being done, but more people coming in and accepting and learning and understanding the work that needs to be done and how to do it effectively.
Yeah, I agree. And it's something that I've noticed too, because like when I come from, working a trade, it's like I didn't know about other opportunities that there might be within the industry outside
Hmm.
of the field. And so as I've navigated my way through it with no map or direction, I'm like, wow, you can be anything you want. You can create anything. You can, start a podcast and have a business, or like really do something like you said. It's like there's a problem, you can find a solution. There's so many opportunities out here, but the different disconnects that we have, the divisions where there's not anybody, seeing guys in the field and saying, "Hey, it's great, being in the field and you can absolutely stay in the field and have a successful career, but if there are other things that you want to do or other positions you want, trying to get into different parts of the industry, midstream, upstream, downstream, you might find an area where you would excel more. But if you just, you barely got a job and you're just trying to make your paycheck every
Hmm.
Friday, you don't even have that mindset. And then, especially field workers, it's so mentally taxing to be in the field
Oh, it's
because
brutal.
yeah, it's brutal. You're away from home. And then, I mean, it can be rough. People in the field can be very welcoming and helpful or not. They're not, it's like because there's that old school mentality of
Yeah.
you're just gonna figure it out. And I come from a you're gonna figure it out
Yeah,
generation. And so it can be, it can really beat you down at the same way it can lift you up, but you have to know that there's more and you have to be able to withstand some of that. You gotta have thick skin and you've got to be self-aware and know that those hard days can pay off later.
absolutely. And I feel like that was after we had like started Red Eye and we're about 6 months in. I kind of hit a brick wall because of that. I kind of got stuck in that mindset of like, man, I gotta put in those extra hours at work. I gotta, work that extra job. I can't take those days off. I can't focus on Red Eye now. I gotta keep making this money. And I kind of shut myself off to that, allowing myself to think of something, the bigger picture, that I can do something different or I can build my business while I do this. I just have to manage my time better. And that is something that I see a lot in the field is people get married to their jobs because of that. They lose all sight of any other opportunity or any thinking outside of what they're currently doing just because of exactly what you said. People are just trying to make it, and once you work 21 days straight or 14
Mhm.
days straight, you get stuck in habits, and that habit
Yeah.
is I wake up, I maybe eat breakfast, I go to work, I maybe eat lunch while I'm working, and so on and so forth. And you're doing that consistently for so long that that mental tax that you just talked about, most of the time, I don't even feel it until I'm at that point. Like,
Mhm.
I may go into a job like, "Oh, man, I'm pumped up," and then go through the whole job, and at the end of it, I'm like, "Whoa,
Yeah.
like, I'm not okay. I need to take days off."
Yeah.
I remember specifically, there was one hitch where my wife texted me, and she's like, "Hey, are you coming home?" It's like, "What are you talking about? I was just home." And then she's like, "No." She's like, "You've been working for 2 months." And I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah.
wow," because you lose track of
You
time,
do.
and that I feel like that's losing track of time out there and just kind of falling into I'd hate to say it stereotype, but label of field worker. Like, this is all I'll ever be, is just I gotta put my nose on the grindstone and keep pushing and keep pushing and keep pushing. It's okay to take a step back and think about other things you wanna pursue, other things you wanna do.
Mhm.
That's what I did with my career. I started as a roustabout, so I was just the bottom guy
Yep.
doing stuff that no one else wanted to do, and it wasn't fun. And then from roustabouting, I moved into flowback rig ups. So then I was again the guy that doing the job that no one wants to do, which is swinging hammers. And then over time, I've just kind of used my experience to leverage new positions into, well testing, then junior operator, then senior operator, and then so on and so forth. And I feel that a lot of people don't make that progression because what you said, they just get stuck in that same pattern and they don't allow themselves the opportunity to be better or be to seek out bigger opportunities.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with that, and, I mean, I can look back because hindsight is 20/20, and when I look
Yeah,
back on my days in the field where I felt lost and, like, this is all there's ever gonna be because you don't just lose track of time out there, you lose track of the world.
absolutely.
You're so far out that it's like you're not even again, with that disconnect and division, it's like you're not even deliberately meaning to detach, but, I mean, when you especially in the Permian, you it's so far out, some of these locations that you're working on, and so you don't have that energy of these other opportunities. You have the rig, you have the right of way, you have the facility, like you have like where you're supposed to be every day and you're fighting traffic. And I mean, again, with like whether or not you have enough FRs to get through the week or you're thinking about when you need to do laundry and, things just to get through the day to day. And then if you get on location and it's 30-mile-an-hour wind, or there's a storm,
Oh,
or
yeah.
there's, the different elements that you have to deal with, or it's 115 degrees, or it's 20 degrees. And so then you're you're taxed all over again mentally
Mhm.
because then you're just trying to get through this 10 or 12-hour day knowing you have to get up and do it all over again. And then if you have anything else going on that is distracting you, whether it's your home life, whether it's good or bad, you're missing out on the good things or you're stressed out because of the bad things, it can be very daunting to wake up every day and face all of that day in and day out and then still think like, "Oh, big picture, I'm gonna be successful in something else."
Yeah, no, definitely, and there has been, dark times in my life out in the field, and, I'm not, afraid to admit it. Maybe a couple years ago, I wouldn't admit it, but there's nothing wrong with accepting that there is those bad days. There is that time where you're
Mhm.
taxed to a point where it's like, "Holy crud, I don't think I could do this anymore," and
Yeah.
I've had those days where, I just didn't think I could do it anymore. I'm like, "I'm done. This is the last week I'm gonna work in the oil field because I just can't handle it anymore."
Yeah.
Like, I've been away from home for 6 months, like, I'm done, and, I think at that point is where you really have to turn into a real life converter. And what I mean by that is you have to take all that negative emotion and all that negative things that is going on and all those negative thoughts and convert that into productive action,
Yeah.
convert that into positivity in some way, but mainly productive action, take pride in what I feel like taking pride in what you do is a way to do that. So, if a bolt needs to get tightened up, and I may be having a bad day, but I promise you that bolt is gonna receive every bit of my bad day. It's gonna be the most tight bolt on the entire world. And
Yeah.
if a piece of pipe needs to get hit out or a hammer union needs to get tightened up, like yeah, that hammer union is gonna fill my bad day. And I
Mhm.
feel that's one of the ways I've been able to convert those negative emotions and negative thoughts into positive and productive action, which kind of developed a skill that benefited Redeye as well. Because when stuff goes bad with Redeye, and I mean stuff does go bad, a lot of businesses don't like showing the bad side,
Mhm.
the hard side of business. They just want to show the fun stuff. But, with all the fun stuff comes there's more bad than good. And when it comes to business, you're kind of learning on the fly.
Mhm.
And being able to convert just any negativity into positivity or productive action has just been key and crucial to not only my success in the oil field, but my success in business and my success in life, just with my family, with everything.
Well, and I think that when you go through those ups and downs and you can navigate your way through it like that, you can reset. You can
Oh, yeah.
reset your mindset and you can say, okay, like you said, converting the negative into the positive. And I've had to do that a lot. I've had breakdowns in the field before where I'm like, I cannot do this anymore, or I can't work for these people, because you then if you're not working for the right company or you're not with the right group, it's like it's even worse.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so then it's like you're really running on E and you've got to find a way to refill your tank to keep going. And so when you have that and you can convert it like that's where I feel like you can really generate a lot of that success because you're starting to see big picture. And so for me, it's like in hindsight, I can see the building blocks. I can see where those mental walls got broken down. I'm proud of what I did. I'm proud of what I've learned and what I contributed when I worked in the field. And I love the knowledge. And I mean, if I could go back and do it all over again with the wisdom I have now, I probably would. There was a time in my life I would have said never.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I feel like, I have those days a lot where I'm just like, "If I went back, would I even do this? Like, would I even join get in the oil field? Like, man, I've already committed, like, 6 years of my life just about to this." Would I and I think back at it, and it's like, "Man, if I could go back with what I knew now,
Yeah,
it would've just been that much easier." It
it
would've
would
just
have. The perspective.
absolutely, and it just would've been it's crazy within 6 years, I'm not an industry veteran, I wouldn't say that, I haven't been in the industry a long time, but just in the 6 years that I've been in the industry, there's been so much innovation and change to the way things work that back then, the things you would do, the actual hard work, it's not the same anymore, I feel like it used to be a game of physical exhaustion, but now it's become a game of emotional exhaustion, especially with the job field I'm in, well testers aren't known for being the most, super hardworking, move fast all day kinda guys, I mean, the initial rig up and then maybe changing some chokes and whatnot, dumping some sand, but, yeah, no, definitely, if I could go back, I think that I wouldn't even know where I'd be. I don't even know what I would do if I went back, but I know that
Oh,
I'd
man.
be involved.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine because I keep picturing some of these locations I've been on, and I'm like, if I would have had this mindset, but I always kind of did like, I've always had an idea of what I wanted to do. And so I think that you start putting those building blocks together and you can really make something with it. And I combined, different parts of my work history and education and skill. I said, I want to work for myself. I want to do something, for the oil field. I want to lift up the industry. I want to provide some education. And, you start putting things together that make sense to you. And but then at the end of the day, you want it to have value. And so when it has value and you can shine that light for others, that's where you really get that sense of, I feel like, connectedness and purpose because you've survived. You made it through that journey. And so instead of being like, some of the old timers that'll say, nobody helped me, so I'm not going to help anyone else, like really being a mentor. And in where we are in our culture, it's very easy to provide that education and be that mentor on social media platforms like TikTok.
Yeah, absolutely. We have Redeye Supply just took on a new ambassador called Oilfield Junkie, and his name's Gus. He's from the Rio Grande Valley. He's a great guy, awesome guy, and we had a ton of submissions when I was asking if anyone wanted to be brand ambassadors. And then I saw Gus's message, and I can't remember it from off the top of my head, but Gus's message was so pure and so just he wanted to help. He did not care about money. He did not care about, I want free stuff. Like, he was just like, dude, this is what I'm about. Like, I'm about helping out new pumpers and I'm about providing educational content on TikTok. So, what Gus does is he's a pumper or a lease operator, and he goes out and anything that may be broken in the field or anything like that, he records videos of himself explaining how to fix it, why you're fixing it, just very educational videos like that. And that is what I feel like the oil field needs because we do have a bunch of old timers that, no one taught me. So, you got to figure it out, bud. And
Yeah.
I've had my fair share of that. And, am I saying those guys are bad? No, because they've taught those guys not teaching me taught me more about
Oh,
the job
100.
than
Yeah.
than like
Yes.
anyone could teach me. So yeah, no, I agree 100% with that. Nowadays, TikTok is the platform. It should be utilized for education like that within the industry. And of course, fun stuff. Like
Yeah.
they're funny videos, it's a way to take off stress from the day and it's a way to express yourself out in the field because you don't really get that. But
Mhm.
definitely for educational purposes.
Well, and I've seen it and it's grown. I feel like, the 2 social media platforms that I've utilized for my show is LinkedIn and TikTok. LinkedIn is very professional. It's, very white collar business development, really seeing what the companies are doing as a whole. But then TikTok, I feel, is more the inner workings. It's the blue blue collar crowd. It is the intricate details of how the work is done. Like, there's a lot of, videos out there about welding, about the different processes of welding, about just, or showing off your welding
Yeah,
skills, and so, taking that to different parts of the industry, like you can really self-educate. And you can use that platform to your professional benefit and understand the trades better, or just look it up and see if it looks like something you'd want to do, or like if you are a helper and you want to be a welder, you can follow all kinds of phenomenal welders on TikTok and learn some of the processes and understand where to start, understand how long it's going to take you, and to have someone like Oilfield Junkie that's literally showing how to fix a problem, and to bring that together, there's that camaraderie from afar.
absolutely. And it's not just TikTok, you know what I mean? Like there's no better time in this world to learn something you don't know than right now. We have so many resources. I mean, YouTube, you can figure out how to do anything on
Yes,
YouTube. You
absolutely.
can go on Google. I think I was watching a video the other day and the dude was like, you can learn anything on YouTube. He's like, I Googled how, or he Googled, not YouTube, he Googled how to build a spaceship. And sure enough, there's blueprints on how to build a spaceship. If you have the money, you can do whatever you want. But there's just the information is out there, and the people who want to do things with that, the people who want to elevate have the opportunity to go on YouTube, have the opportunity to go on Google and learn that way. But I myself am a visual learner. So like you
Mhm.
said, Oilfield Junkies videos, I know there's a few other guys in the industry that do how-to videos, and seeing it firsthand in that way, that is all like everything.
Yeah,
Like seeing people actually do the job,
yeah.
seeing people talk about their journey. I love the videos about people documenting their journey throughout a career or workout path or something like that. I love watching
Yeah,
journeys
that's fun.
because
I
it
like that
shows
too.
you, yeah, it just shows you exactly what to, expect. Maybe you'll experience it different, but it shows you kind of the baseline of what to expect throughout it all.
Yeah, because with social media, especially now, because I mean, social media is everything, and Google, YouTube. I mean, like you said, you can Google anything. You can look anything up on TikTok or YouTube and find tutorials. And it doesn't just have to be about your job. It doesn't have to be about one certain thing. It's like your whole lifestyle. I mean, you
Absolutely.
you can find everything, and then you can find different social topics, or like learning more about being a better spouse or a better parent, or better at, whatever it is you're looking for. But I think that it's up to you. It's up to you as an individual. Like, how much do you want to elevate and educate yourself? Because you can waste a lot of time. You can just scroll through. There is a lot of drama. There is a lot of,
Hmm.
just mindless entertainment. There's good entertainment, but then there's also a lot of, just crazy stuff out there. And and so like you're gonna it's a melting pot. It's
It
it's a
is.
melting pot of information, but you're right. Like, you can learn anything you want. Like, where we're at in our culture, you can really take advantage of that.
You really can. And I by no means have ever ran a business before Redeye Supply. Redeye Supply started in the field on a night shift out of nowhere. I just decided to have this idea because I ripped my shirt on a monorail. It was embarrassing. People laughed at me. If y'all are seeing this, that was not nice. No, they dogged me pretty hard for that. That's just part of the industry, all banter. And yeah, everything that I've done with Red Eye, I have either learned on YouTube, I have learned on Google. I didn't have the chance to connect with people outside or sit down with people for breakfast or network in that way because, of course, I'm working 12-hour shifts. I'm in the
Mhm.
field, I'm away from home. I don't have the luxury of reaching out and getting that mentor, getting that, person to person contact. So everything that we've done on Red Eye has been Googled. It's been figuring it out as we go. And what you said about having that mindset, that's what it is. It takes you at some point, enough is enough. You know what I mean? You stop selling yourself short and you just say, you know what? I'm going to do something great. And
Mhm.
that's what happened with me. I was like, you know what? I'm going to do something great. And I'm going to devote every single bit of time I have to learning about building this business and doing it the right way and doing it for the right reasons and make it into something that aligns with my personal goals, my personal vision. And exactly what you said. It's just that mindset of wanting to learn something that I read in a book. And I forget what book it was because I read a lot of books. So I forget a lot. But um, It said, "Learn, implement, and repeat."
Ooh, that's a
So
good one.
that is a huge, huge part of my life now is I learn things, I implement them, and then I repeat the process no
Mhm.
matter what area of life it is, whether it be spiritual, physical, at home, in my business, at work. Um, that's how I go about that because at the end of the day, you hear it all the time. How you do anything is how you do everything. So if you're not doing everything at a high level, if you're not doing everything with purposeful intention, if you're not doing everything out of good, then you're not really doing anything
Right.
at all.
Right. Well, and we can really miss that mark if you don't have that mindset in the first place to say,
Yeah,
like, to be great at anything, you have to be dedicated to something.
very.
And we can be very scattered and aimless, and I feel like that's where, depression can take over, anxiety, just feeling lost, and especially in the field, you can feel lost
Oh,
because you can feel so
absolutely.
disconnected from the outside world, and then, if you do have those long days on location, your mind wanders, and then you're just, like, wondering what's the point of it all, and you're just trying to get your paycheck on Friday, but if you really refine that mindset and say like this is what it takes, and it takes the sum of all those parts to create something great, because even when you create your business, then there's that journey of running the business and managing it, and things when they go wrong or life happens in the mix, and it's like you're having to navigate being at home or being at work, and then you still have this business running 24/7, and so you've got to stay dedicated to all of it.
Definitely, and that is something that I feel like there's a misconception around is number 1, I'm 27 years old. So, I'm not super old. I don't wanna be old. I'm not super young, but this thing that I've learned throughout, 27 years, I can say, is that something I can say? Throughout 27 years is, no one is born great, if that makes sense. Like, no one is born the best businessman in the world. No one is born the best mindset in the world. It's all cultivated and it's all developed. And that's a skill that you can learn. And that's something I had to learn was because I did battle through depression in the field. And I'm not afraid to admit that. I'm sure plenty of guys battle through it and go through it. And, a lot of guys don't talk about that because they don't think it's okay. But I did go through that. And through learning, implementing, and repeating, I was able to develop a mindset to where I know that if I want to be great, there's a certain path that I have to take to do that. There's certain
Mhm.
things I have to do that. I can't be beat myself up over, current situations or things like that. And that just falls into place with managing a balance, which you're never going to get a balance when you're running a business. There's been no balance whatsoever. I work, I run the business, I'm a dad, I'm at home. Sometimes I have my son on my lap at the computer and I'm typing out a new product description or I'm researching competitors or I'm doing something that involves the business and sometimes I'm at work FaceTiming my son while I'm swinging a hammer or while I'm setting a level on a vessel. You have to develop your own kind of balance because if you're striving for that balance that you're talking about or that you had said, if you're striving for balance, it's bad to say, but it's going to be really hard to find, especially working in this industry. It's going to
Mhm.
be very, very hard to find unless you're blessed to work for great companies because there is great companies out there to provide really good balance. But when it comes into the world of starting your own business, yeah, it gets a little dicey.
Well, and I think too that it's like you have to separate yourself. And so, you're not going to be with the crowd. And I mean, so it can be very lonely. So when
Yeah.
it's like if you're wanting to have that balance, the typical oil field worker, you're working, then you're hanging out with your buddies, then you're going home to be with your family. That's the balance.
Mhm.
But if you're wanting to do something different and you want to carve out your own identity in this industry, you're going to have to separate yourself from that group, and you're going to have the understanding family at home, or like how you and your wife run the business together. And so, to have, balance in that way, there's going to be a little bit of loneliness with that, and self-isolation, so that you can achieve those goals.
Absolutely. And I feel like when it comes to wanting to be successful or at something or wanting to be great at something, there's gonna be some form of sacrifice involved, whether that be what you said, separating yourself from, maybe after shift today, I don't go out and hang out with the guys at the bar. I don't go and go straight to the hotel and take a nap. Maybe I go to the gym, or maybe I sit down and send out 100 emails, or like stuff like that. And I feel like that's something I've learned is exactly what you said. When you're carving your own path, you're gonna have to sacrifice some things. Now, I'm not
Mhm.
saying you have to go all in like crazy, but
Right.
I'm saying there are gonna be things that you're not gonna be able to enjoy. Like, I don't really go out. I don't go out. I don't go to bars. I don't go out and eat, with my wife every now and then. But most of my time is either at work, working on my business, or being the best dad I can be.
Mhm.
Because I feel like that's an area that a lot of people struggle into is having that home life. When you're home and you just get off a 21-day shift or a 21-day hitch and you come home, you're not really are you really home? Is your mind
Right.
home?
Mhm.
And I feel like that's been the biggest challenge in it all is just trying to figure out how to navigate my path that I've carved for myself and, you know, inevitably finding out where the path leads to.
Right, and, with that, it's that again, going back to the mindset, because when you
Mm.
go home, there's that adjustment period,
Oh yeah.
and then it's hard to adjust, and then you're not necessarily understood because no one knows what it's like to live on the road unless you've lived on the road. And so trying to leave that on the road and just be with your family, you can't necessarily just turn that switch off and then turn it back on, but you have to, because you've got these time commitments. You only have so much time at home, and then you've got all this time when you're on your hitch. And so trying to battle that and be okay with it. It's like that's ongoing because you do that repeatedly. And so
Nonstop.
it's nonstop. And so then you are going to get burnout, and you are going to feel like a stranger in your own home, or having to recommit to the field and be in those elements and find those the dualities in your identity, and how this is who you are all the time, but there are certain aspects of yourself that are going to apply when you're on location compared to when you're at home with your son or your family, or you're at having dinner with your wife. But it's hard to navigate that because things change and you're human.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I feel like that is something that I struggled with for a while was it did feel like I was living two different lives. Like this was before Red Eye. It did feel like I was living two separate lives. I was John at work and John at home. I was
Mhm.
dad and I was hand. And
Yeah.
it was I was juggling these two
Right.
personalities and it was just like, holy moly, man, like what is
Mhm.
going on? And it puts you in this state of mind that's just like you're confused.
Yeah.
You know what you need to do when you're at both places, and it's like when you're at home, you're missing work, or you're at home and you're like, man, that needs to get done at work. But then you're at work and you're like, man, I miss home. So it's
Mhm.
like this weird conflicting emotions that go on along with it. And
Yeah.
surprisingly enough, putting more on my plate with Red Eye has really, really helped with that
I can
because
see it, like, maybe, like, bring the worlds together.
because Red Eye brings the worlds together.
Okay.
So when I'm at work, I still talk to my wife all the time. I still FaceTime my son, and when I'm at home, I'm still working on Red Eye, and I'm still in contact with the guys in the field, like our ambassadors. Like I try my best to talk to our customers. So I do my best to always be involved with our customers in some way. So anytime you contact Red Eye Supply, I feel like a lot of people think it's a bunch of people that run Red Eye and it's just me and my wife. So they'll email us and they don't understand, like, I'm the one emailing you back. So that's kind of how I get my field time at home. It Red Eye just kind of sits in the middle. So we have home, Red Eye, work.
Nice. I can
So
see that. It's a bridge.
it's a bridge that allows me to kind of, in that adjustment period, I can lean more into Red Eye and then pull back into family. You know what I mean? It gives
So
you
that
that
kinda gives you the balance.
somewhat of balance. It's a hectic balance.
Oh,
It's like
yeah. No, it's a
walking on
you've
a
got a lot,
yeah,
but I can see where it brings the 2 worlds
it
together,
does.
and, I mean, it makes your relationship with your wife stronger. It keeps you, like, where you're not unplugging from work,
Mhm.
because, a lot of times when you work in the field, it's like you're leaving your hitch, you're done, you're gone until you come back, and then you have to recommit to the field every time you come off of that time off, and it can be taxing. Again, everything is taxing mentally and emotionally when you
Mhm.
have to leave your family, when you have to, leave the comfort of your home, and then you finally get through the adjustment period of being back on location, and the cycle starts all over again. But with red eye, it's like you're never fully unplugged in a positive way because you have something that of value, and so you're still in those conversations about work in its own way. And then like when you're at work, it's like you're really connected to your wife because you guys are doing that together.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and I feel
Very
like,
cool.
when you said balance, it just made me laugh because It's like balance. It is a form of balance, but it's like balancing on a tightrope, like holding a big old weight above your head. Like it's at any point you can tip one way too far or the other, and if you commit too far one way, you
Mhm.
starve your business. But if you commit too far this way, you starve your family. But if you commit too far to both of them, you starve work. And that's something I try to pride myself on is still showing up to work and not just being solely focused on Redeye, but doing the best job I could possibly do while I'm at work. I still have that responsibility to the company I work for
Mhm.
to provide the best work possible, the best service that we do for the oil companies. And yeah, it's been a wild ride. It has
Yeah,
been wild,
I bet.
and we've only been we've only been a company for a little over a year now, and it took off a lot faster than we thought it would.
Well, and with that, because I've noticed like you have quite a following, and I mean your videos are very consistent. You're always putting out content, and really again, being that advocate for the field. But you've cultivated some really great relationships, like you said with Gus at Oilfield Junkie, and then Matt.
Oh,
He's another ambassador, correct?
yes, my only pronoun is hand. Shout out my only pronoun is hand. That is my boy right there. Love him to death. Matt, the old company man, the tool hand. I love Matt. Yeah, so Matt, man, Matt. He was the very first ambassador we had, and he was an ambassador 2 months into the company. I didn't have an FR shirt yet, and I had Matt as an ambassador, and we got him his own sticker and his own T-shirt, and we um, just started. He just really played a key role in helping us not only with an unboxing video that kind of propelled us forward, but just being someone that understood where I was building a business. I feel like a lot of other guys would be like, "Oh, it's awesome, you're building a business, bro." And it's
Yeah,
like, "Okay, cool. Do you have any recommendations?" They're
right.
like, "No."
No
It's like,
feedback,
yeah,
nothing.
nothing. And Matt was that person that, Matt would come over to the house to pick up some stickers to hand out in the field, and there we are 3 hours later talking about, plans on the business and ideas, and he was a person that I could really rely on to be that advocate and be that person that I can confide in when it comes to talking about Redeye. And Matt believed in us when we had nothing. Matt believed in our vision when we had 50 followers. And I remember telling him, like, bro, we're not going to stop. I was like, it's going to be, no one's going to stand in our way. And he's like, bro, you got like 25 followers, like, chill. And I was like, nah, man, we're building it up, dude. Like, we're going to do this. And yeah, he's played a key role into just being there for us and being involved. And man, love him to death. He's just a great guy.
That's awesome, and to have that, positive reinforcement and education. I know you'd mentioned before that he taught you a lot about using TikTok and utilizing the platform and how it functions and things like that with the algorithms and just having the knowledge about the oil field as well.
Yeah, he played a key role in that as well because before, like anyone that followed Red Eye when we first started, you'd see my videos. They were just slideshows of stickers, and they were like awful. It had like little text on it, not even like just the generic font, and it was like that weird voice. It was like I started an oil field company, or like I started a clothing company, and it was just like terrible, terrible videos, like just awful. And Matt just kind of really, he was already bigger on TikTok, so he kind of knew how analytics and he kind of knew how the algorithm worked. And you got to find your days and times that are good to post. And that's why you kind of see Red Eye kind of sporadic every now and then. Like, hey, we may post at 6 a.m. or 6 p.m. Like, it's just me kind of figuring out the
Mhm.
algorithm and
Oh
getting
yeah.
us realigned again. And he taught me just a ton about TikTok in general and things that you wouldn't even think of, like what's in the background of your video. What
Mm.
are words that they're commenting on your video that you need to say in the next video? It's like small little tidbits that actually add up and play into the algorithm. And I was completely shocked when he told me. I was like, "There's no way, bro. There's no way." And then he would like send me screenshots of his stuff. He'd be like, "Look, bro, this is how I did this one, and this is how I did this one," and it was like crazy difference. And once I started implementing some of those things he said, is when we started seeing some massive, massive growth. And it was it's been a wild ride, and I
Yeah.
can't thank Matt enough for being him and just genuinely believing in the company, genuinely believing in my vision, and doing everything he can on his end to help us out. So,
Yeah, very cool. Very cool to have someone like that in your corner and that you can work with and, really like share the journey with as
oh,
well.
absolutely.
And, I mean, I think it's a great thing that you've done for oil field workers and being an advocate and a trailblazer and saying, hey, let's make this affordable. Let's, do this together. Here's knowledge about the industry and how you can get into it. And so there's just a wealth of positivity coming out of Red Eye Supply and the brand that you've started and what you're doing for it. And so I really appreciate you coming on today and sharing your journey.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you for having me. It's been a blast.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for coming on.
Yes.